President Obama has authorized the deployment of 600 additional troops to Iraq. That will bring the U.S. troop levels there to more than 5,000. But in a political climate that claims we don't have Americans, quote, in combat, why are they there and what danger are they facing at this point? In a search for answers, former U.S. Army Green Beret Ben Collins took me inside the mission as it stands right now, a combat veteran who says he's worried about a confused message from the White House and the Pentagon, and that it is leaving our men and women and the American people unprepared for the sacrifices that are yet to come inside Iraq again. His foremost concern is a likely October fight to retake the Iraqi city of Mosul, where ISIS is nesting like scorpions.
We have upwards of perhaps over 5,000 U.S. soldiers that are in Iraq right now, preparing to be a part of the battle that is going to attempt to liberate the city of Mosul from ISIS. ISIS has two capitals. They've got one in Raqqa in Syria, and they've got one in Iraq in Mosul. And this is the first time that we're going to go after, as part of a much larger force, a city that ISIS has had control over for 2 years.
And I put a circle around Mosul because aren't they on every side of it now? I understand that they're booby traps.
They've had time to prepare, trenches that they filled with oil. They have IEDs, the explosives that take out, vehicles. They have sniper positions. They have tunnels dug in. They've had 2 years to prepare for this fight, and they are ready for this fight.
And Ben, this is the second time around. You served. How disheartening is it to look at this map and to know that this is our option at this point?
It's heartbreaking because the reality is we have towns in Iraq and Afghanistan that we paid the ultimate sacrifice for. I mean, and for guys like me, I mean, it's holy ground. I mean, it's American blood that was spilled to retake these towns. And, and that's a big concern about here. I mean, we never really had a day after plan in the first time around. What's going to be the stabilization force after they retake this town? This
is now a military fortress with the worst type of urban environment for warfare.
Look at the density of this city, and that, from a combat perspective, the density of this city is what's most alarming. I mean, this is going to be a building-to-building, street-to-street fight, and you can see the expanse of this. This is going to be a bloody battle for the Iraqis, and my only hope is that, the Americans don't get sucked into this because of poor planning.
How do we help?
According to the White House, and the Defense Department, they're going to be helping with logistics, moving equipment, moving supplies, and we have the air support. We're going to have the Apache gunships, and we're going to have combat aircraft in the air. They have said that even the special operators that are there in an advisory capacity are only there to advise and assist, but that the Iraqis will be doing the fighting. Now, here's the problem with that. We have lost American soldiers in the last year that were there in an advise and an assist capacity. And I can tell you that there is no special operator, no American Special Forces advisor that is willing to watch the men that he trains and eats with and becomes friends with gets pinned down in a battle and doesn't move to support and come out of that safe area into combat. So this is going to be very difficult for us not to get pulled into that battle, and that's if everything is going right. If something goes wrong, my biggest concern is, do our people on the ground have the necessary support that they would need?
Do they?
I don't think so. To be honest, I mean, at the peak in Iraq, we had 170,000 soldiers. I am still a believer in the PAL doctrine, that if you're going to go in, you go in with everything you have, you hit it as hard as you can, and you get out. If one of those helicopters goes down in a city like this, who's going to be the quick reaction force to go get them? And if that helicopter goes down here, is it going to be Americans that are going to have the capacity to go in and pull out those pilots?
How do you get there? From the air.
Well, exactly. Well, I mean,
more stuff for them to shoot at. So what do the American people need to know about this?
The fact is, in my opinion, we have had confusion for years between the White House, the Pentagon, and the battlefield. And Congress needs to do its job. Let's actually have a debate against the authorization use of military force. Let's debate what our soldiers are doing. Because if there is no clear and concise end state, if we can't define what our soldiers are doing, then this is how we get a decades-long fight, and the American people don't know what's happening. And for me, that's the biggest heartbreak, is Americans don't understand right now. I think that we have guys that are in combat, and the White House fails to recognize that they are in combat.
Well, for many reasons, Ben told me, including the weather, he and others expect the attack from Mosul to begin this month. And there will be a plan, but there is a famous military saying, and I know it well, no plan survives contact with the enemy. Things change. The enemy, after all, has plans of its own.